Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Today, we will discuss with each other the topic of practicing in daily life. Practicing in daily life means that we, as the Buddha's disciples, whether we are monastics or lay people, must be busy with many tasks of our ordinary life. So how is it that right in this daily life, right in this ordinary, mundane existence, we can still practice the sublime Dharma of the Buddha? So that with each passing day, it is clear that we are walking in the cycle of birth and death. We are walking in suffering and defilement. But in that defilement, that suffering, that cycle of birth and death, we gradually complete our holy path. And we are also walking out of the cycle of birth and death, also heading towards enlightenment and liberation. Karma forces us to walk in the cycle of birth and death. And the defilements of the mundane world keep luring us, inviting us to walk in temptation and sin. But because we know the Buddha Dharma, we also take advantage of this very path we are walking on in samsara. We silently practice the holy path of liberation and enlightenment. So you see, we still live a life full of the duties and responsibilities for ourselves, for our family, for society, but unexpectedly, within that, in every single moment of daily life, we are still secretly practicing the Buddha's path. And so, with each day that passes, each month, each year that passes, our merits accumulate gradually, until the day we bid farewell to this world, we will have accumulated a great deal of merit from our practice. And so, it is clear that we have passed through a human life that is very beneficial and profitable. Other people go through a human life and they incur a loss because there are too many tears, too much suffering. But if we know how to practice in daily life, then when we close this lifetime, we tally the books and find we have a profit. Tally the books, and who tallies the books for us? King Yama, for example. Let's say there is a King Yama, the judge of the underworld. On the day we die, King Yama calls us to investigate the records. What did this person do while they were alive? Then the celestial judge reports to King Yama, Your Majesty, this person, while alive, although they were busy and struggling, they silently always recited the Buddha's name, often loved people, often helped people. There were late nights when they sat in meditation, prostrated to the Buddha, chanted sutras, and did so for many years. So what then? King Yama says, this person no longer falls under the jurisdiction of King Yama, but belongs to the celestial realms, the realms of the saints. So, although we live an ordinary life, in the secret of that ordinariness, we are doing an extraordinary thing, which is that we know how to practice according to the Buddha's path. So today, when we talk to each other, we are talking about the topic of practicing in daily life just like that. That is, in the daily life of a human existence, it may be ordinary, it may be normal, but we will secretly do an extraordinary thing taught by the Buddha. That is the content of our discussion today. However, to know how to practice, we must know the method of practice. Where is the method of practice? It is in the Buddha's teachings. And what do the Buddha's teachings teach? What do the Buddha's teachings teach? The Buddha's teachings are vast, covering all sorts of things. So today we listen to this sermon, tomorrow we listen to that sermon, the day after we read that scripture. And then we don't know what to practice because there is too much. For example, a person who doesn't research much doesn't know how vast Buddhism is. But for someone who has taken the trouble to study Buddhism, they will see that the scriptures in Buddhism are immense, without limit. Then, the venerable monks take those scriptures and they lecture on them again, and each monk lectures differently, their teachings rich, overflowing, endless. So we cannot understand what we are supposed to do in the end, what to practice in this life. Because as for listening, it's vast and immense, we don't know where to begin. And when we listen, every sermon is good, every sermon is sublime and valuable. But to say that everything is good, everything is sublime and valuable, we must extract something, a core, so we can grasp it concisely. So the problem is like this. The problem is that we must be able to hold the entire heaven and earth in the palm of our hand, just as we must be able to hold the entire vast teachings of the Buddha in some core, so that we can practice in our daily, normal lives with each other like this. Therefore, in the Zen school, many practitioners were impatient. They went to a Zen master and asked, "Venerable Sir, what is the great, essential meaning of the Buddha Dharma?" that is, of the entire vast Buddha Dharma, they asked, "Venerable Sir, please condense it into one great meaning for me to grasp, so I can practice." And how did the Venerable Master answer? How did the Zen Master answer? Each master had a different way of answering. Like Master Mazu, he responded by kicking an old man, who fell and rolled over a few times. The man stood up, clapped his hands, and laughed heartily. He had found the great meaning of the Buddha Dharma. Someone else asked about the great meaning of the Buddha Dharma and was struck with a teaching stick. Upon being awakened, they found the great meaning. We still don't know what the great meaning is. Someone asked, "What is the great meaning of the Buddha Dharma?" The answer was, 3 pounds of flax. Someone asked, "What is the great meaning of the Buddha Dharma?" The answer was, the cypress tree in the front courtyard. Someone asked, "What is the great meaning of the Buddha Dharma?" The answer was, the bamboo garden has both crooked and straight trees. We listen and it's all so vast we don't know what's what. But those are the ways of answering for those of superior faculties and great capacity. As for us, we must admit that we are people of low capacity and heavy karma. And we ask for something easy to practice from the very foundation so that we can go from the lowest point and rise up. Therefore, though we hear a lot of teachings, we need 2 things. The first thing is what? To grasp the core of the teachings in Buddhism. And the second is how to apply it in our daily lives. We need those 2 things to practice in Buddhism. My dear Buddhist friends, do you agree? Now, if you go to the venerable monks and say, "I go and listen to so many temples and so many monks, it's too vast, I don't know where to begin my practice. Venerable sirs, please give me 2 things. 1, what is the core of Buddhism, in a concise way, and 2, how to apply it in daily life. And today we will discuss this. Here it is like this. In truth, if one is a genuine master, then although he may teach many doctrines, they all revolve around one core. They all revolve around one core. Just like a satellite flying in the sky. However it flies in circles around the earth. It doesn't break away from the earth to get lost in the universe. Just like the moon, sometimes it's a crescent, sometimes it's full, but it always orbits this earth to shine its gentle light on the earth during moonlit nights, so that in our spare moments we can lie in a hammock in the front yard, look up at the gentle moonlight, and maybe compose a few poems. So, no matter where it goes, around and around, it must revolve around the earth. A genuine master is the same. Though he may speak of 10,000 sutras and 1,000,000 volumes, he never departs from the core, he still revolves around a certain main core. And when we listen, we hear that person teach about the vast heavens and earth, but the more we listen, the more we see the core, the more we listen, the more we see the core. But if the person is not a genuine master, he speaks of whatever comes to mind, whatever he likes to say. Today he talks about side A, the next day he talks about side B. Today he talks about Earth, tomorrow he talks about Mars. We don't know which way to go, and we can never grasp the core of Buddhism, never grasp the core of the teachings, because that teacher himself doesn't have a core. Today he gives a sermon about what must be practiced and what evils to avoid. The next day we hear him say, "Oh, there's no good and no evil." We don't know which way to turn. That same teacher, one moment he says this, the next moment he says that, also without a core. Whereas a genuine master speaks of the vast heavens and earth, but always revolves around the core, and in doing so makes it so that the more we listen, the more we recognize the core. What is the core of Buddhism? For example, the teaching of cause and effect of the Buddha permeates and covers all aspects of life and all teachings. Therefore, a master, no matter how vastly he teaches, never departs from the teaching of cause and effect. So the more we listen to his teachings, the more deeply we understand cause and effect. Just like in the Buddha's teachings, the teachings of Buddhism focus on non-self. Therefore, we hear the Buddha speak of vast and various scriptures, but we all realize one thing: the Buddha teaches us non-self. There is no I. There is no real me. So when we understand the Buddha's teachings deeply, in our lives we must also practice living with non-self. But normally, everyone has a self, a me. I want to be prominent. I want to be better than others. I want everyone to love me. Even if I hate other people must still love me. That's quite clever, isn't it? It doesn't matter who I hate. But everyone must love me. If you don't love me, I'll get angry. That's because the I dominates us in every single way. But the Buddha teaches us to live with non-self. Don't have a me. What does it mean not to have a me? Not having a me means we will love others without needing them to love us back. We will yield to others without needing to compete to win or lose against them. We will receive people's criticism as if drinking a glass of sweet water. We will receive people's praise with gratitude, not with arrogance, with reservation and humility, not with pride. We will receive people's kindness with all our respect and appreciation. We will receive people's malicious schemes and hatred as a lesson for our practice in this world, and be filled with gratitude. That is the way of practicing the path of non-self. From a single non-self taught by the Buddha, that there is no me, we apply it to form countless virtues, countless moral principles to deal with people in this life. And though we speak of vast and various scriptures, when condensed, it's just the one core of non-self. We grasp this core of non-self, then we expand it, we develop it, and it also becomes countless meritorious deeds and virtues in life. Therefore, why did the Buddha say that one is all and all is one? It means that this one core teaching can be developed into countless other meritorious deeds, and those countless other meritorious deeds, when grasped, when gathered in the palm of this hand, are also just the one doctrine of non-self. That's how it is. Therefore, first we need to grasp the core of the teachings, and after that we apply it in our daily lives. In that way, we understand Buddhism, we can practice Buddhism, and we can guarantee that on the day we close this lifetime, we will step into a new world that will be much more glorious. Because we have gone in the right direction, we have created countless wholesome merits. Speaking of Buddhism, we have a few cores, not just one. For example, we have the core of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect governs our lives from this life to many other lives, and it governs all areas of our lives, from our soul, our appearance, our actions, our living circumstances, the environment we live in, the country we live in, all are governed by cause and effect. And we must understand this core of cause and effect. Or we have another core, the core of the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path, from right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, those rights encompass all practice methods in the heavens and the earth. No matter how sublime anyone claims their practice is, they can never go beyond the Noble Eightfold Path. Condensed, it is the Noble Eightfold Path, but expanded, it becomes 84,000 Dharma doors. So we also have a core called the Noble Eightfold Path. We also have another core, the core of compassion. That is, whatever you practice, you must love human beings, you must love sentient beings, you must love one another. That is the doctrine. If we talk about Buddhism eloquently and endlessly, but when we meet people, our hearts have no love, then we have lost the core of compassion. And loving is not easy at all. Who do we normally love? We only love the person who has helped us, who has brought a good life to us. Parents who raised us, siblings who helped us. As for a sibling who fights us for our inheritance, we stop speaking to them immediately, or friends everywhere. The one who invites us for food and drink, we love them immediately. That is, we only love the person who makes us happy. So clearly, in the end, who do we love? We only love ourselves. And the doctrine of compassion teaches us the opposite, that we love everyone, without there needing to be any debt of gratitude with that person. We just love. Sometimes we love and can help that person. Sometimes we love and can't help that person at all. But please still just love. Still just love. Just keep loving people, even if life is dark and deceitful. Even if life is as bitter as lime. Just like that, just keep loving. That is what the doctrine of compassion is like. Or we have another core, the core of meditation. Our mind, our brain, it's always restless, chattering, thinking from this idea to that idea. And it is those very ideas that make our minds deluded. Our ego is strengthened. We cannot attain liberation. And here the Buddha teaches us we must know how to practice meditation to calm the mind into tranquility. And from that calm and tranquil mind, we go deeper and deeper into the layers of concentration to achieve non-self, enlightenment, and liberation. Therefore, we have another core to practice, which is meditation. Meditation means that in daily life, alongside the busy tasks we must attend to, at all times we must know how to collect the mind in tranquility. And in our spare moments, at a fixed time, we must also know how to sit cross-legged to practice meditation. That is the core. This core is also very difficult to practice, but it is the pinnacle of practice in Buddhism. Anyone who comes to Buddhism and cannot yet practice meditation, we still have not yet reached the pinnacle. We are still at a low level. Roughly, we have 5 cores. One core is cause and effect, the Noble Eightfold Path, compassion, meditation, non-self. For now, we have 5 cores. But now, if we just keep bringing these 5 out and talking about them over and over, would you, my Buddhist friends, get bored? So the venerable monks are forced to lecture in a certain way. They must lecture on the vast heavens and earth, lecture on all sorts of things. Why lecture so much? Why lecture so much? Any lecturer must have several hundred sermons. For example, myself, I also have nearly 700 sermons, but there are only 5 cores. So why talk until there are nearly 700 talks? The purpose is this: first, not to let the Buddhist followers get bored. The second reason is what? Although lecturing a lot, in truth, what is it for? To illuminate these 5 cores. So no matter how many sutras, how many volumes are taught, in truth, it is also just to talk about these 5 cores. So it is still just these 5 cores. It never goes outside. But listening to it this way is more enjoyable, isn't it? If we only ever talked about 5 topics, we would get bored immediately. That is the reason why we hear so many things, but it's not many, but it is very much. Another thing is this: our lives are multifaceted, complex, and always changing. Today that person loves me, tomorrow they hate me. Today I am poor, watch out, tomorrow I may be rich. When I'm poor, living like this is fine, but when I'm rich, how must I live to be in accordance with the doctrine? Because there are people who are lovable when they are poor, but when they become rich, they immediately become hateful. Is that true? Yes, it is. When that man was poor, he was lovable. Now that he has money, he's so arrogant, it's unbearable. Why is that? Because he only learned the doctrine for living when he was poor. He did not learn the doctrine for when he is rich. A failure. So we have to learn the doctrine in all its aspects. How do we live when we are rich? How do we live when we are poor? Or there's the person who is lovable when rich, but when they become poor, they start to be disagreeable. Is that so? They feel insecure. They say, when I had money, I was kind and cheerful, but now that I have no money, I'm always self-conscious about being poor, meeting everyone with a scowl, sad, avoiding people. Thus, they become hateful. So some people are lovable when poor, hateful when rich, and sometimes the opposite. Why? Because we haven't learned the doctrine fully. Why is that? Because life is too complicated, multifaceted, and changing. And if we don't learn the doctrine fully, then when we encounter each of these situations, we don't know how to respond. We don't know how to respond. For example, there's an orphan child. An orphan from a young age is not taught. He only lives with other street kids like him, calling each other you and me informally. Then he meets people who do charity work. They look for orphans to bring home and raise. This older person, he calls them you informally too. Why? Because he doesn't know that for an older person, he must address and treat them with a different, respectful manner. He has only learned one lesson: how to treat people of his own rank. You and me. Hey you, hey me. Just like him, other urchins on the street. He doesn't know how to treat someone older than him. He wasn't taught. And life? It has many situations, multifaceted, complex, and always changing. Therefore, we listen to many teachings. For what purpose? It is so that we have enough doctrine to deal with, to handle the many different situations in this life. And in every situation that occurs, if we handle it correctly, we have merit. But if we handle it wrongly, we create negative karma, right then and there. We meet a person worthy of respect, and we don't know how to respect them, we create negative karma, right then and there. We meet a person with whom we must be strict, but we are not strict, we are indulgent and pampering. We also create negative karma, right then and there. Therefore, we must know the doctrine, and the more we know, the better. Why? So that we don't go astray, don't get confused, don't get tangled up. And life is so complex, we need to know so much. But we must know it all revolving around those 5 cores. So, for each core we must ponder, contemplate, and practice it a great deal to grasp it. It's not something that happens in a day or a night, or that you hear once and know immediately. For example, we hear about cause and effect. What is cause and effect? People say, oh, it's you reap what you sow. Whoever plants melons gets melons. Whoever plants chili peppers reaps chili peppers. What else? If we love and help others, in the future our lives will be lucky and happy. And if we hate someone or harm someone, in the future our lives will encounter many misfortunes. Is that statement correct about cause and effect? It's perfectly correct, isn't it? But is cause and effect only that much? It is not simple at all. It is not simple at all. It's not that cause and effect is simply if I give money to others, I get merit. No, it depends on what that person uses the money for. Only then do we know if we have merit or not. Cause and effect is much more complicated, not as simple as we understand it to be, that just helping others means we have merit. It is not so. For example, right now we give a person 100,000 VND. Do we think we have merit? With that 100,000, he goes into a bar and drinks alcohol, or he goes gambling, or he does something else, he smokes the most expensive packs of cigarettes. Then we create negative karma, right then and there. We have absolutely no merit from that 100,000 at all. We have just created 100,000 worth of negative karma, not 100,000 worth of merit. But if he takes that 100,000 home, eats, lives, buys medicine to take, brings it home to buy rice for his wife and children, then we have merit. We have merit. Therefore, the statement, if we help people, we get merit, that statement, upon review, is not accurate, although the basis of cause and effect is that helping people brings merit and harming people brings negative karma. That is the basis. But when we look deeper into cause and effect, the issue is not just that simple. Therefore, just to understand cause and effect, we have to contemplate, we have to ponder it in our lives for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years before we begin to see the complex pathways of cause and effect. It is not simple. There are many things that seem good but turn into bad, seem bad but turn into good. Life is strange like that. There are very strange paradoxes. For example, there was an organization, an economic organization. That organization protected the rights of children. In doing so, it condemned factories in less developed countries that did not let children go to school but used child labor, hiring children at very cheap wages, making them work like slaves. This was called a violation of children's rights according to the International Convention on the Rights of the Child. To protest this, the organization ordered all countries in the world not to buy goods from that factory. They had that power. One day, they infiltrated a factory. When they raided the factory, they discovered it was full of children working, not a single adult. They were working like slaves, struggling, thin, pale, and emaciated. They went back, took photos, filmed it, then made a public announcement raising a huge alarm. They said, "Clearly, we have caught red-handed this factory that exploits child labor," and demanded that all countries refuse to import goods from this factory. Was this the right thing to do? Legally, it was completely right, nothing wrong. But 3 years later, the people who had fought for children's rights, they returned to that locality to follow up on what happened. And they saw one thing: all the girls, the young girls who used to work in the factory, were now standing on the streets as prostitutes. And all the boys had joined mercenary armies and were smuggling. Why? Because they had no work, they had nothing to live on. In the past, people exploited them, but they had a place to survive. So the people who said they protected children's rights, they didn't allow them to be hired, but they didn't raise the children, did they? They couldn't raise the children for a single day, they only shouted and forbade others from hiring them. So they didn't solve the problem completely, which led to much worse consequences, much worse consequences. So we think we are doing a good thing, but unexpectedly we have created many bad things. The same goes, for example, now we say we love people. We are walking on the street, we see beggars holding out their hands. And what do? We are kind-hearted, we want to make merit, so we take out 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 dong, we give it all along the way. And do we think we have merit? Yes, right? Because giving money to others gives merit, right? Then the next time we come back, we see 10 times the number of beggars standing there, filling the whole place. Because one person tells another, there are some very generous people here. Just go begging. You can make several 100,000 a day, much better than working. They all flock to beg. We thought we were doing a good thing, but unexpectedly we created a bad thing behind it because we didn't see the whole problem. So we just think that doing a good thing is good. No, be careful, we do a good thing, but it turns out to be bad. So many people say, Venerable Sir, I have practiced for 30 years. I have also done meritorious deeds for 30 years, but after 30 years of doing them, I am poorer and more miserable than before. Is that so? There are people who have lamented like that. I am more miserable than before. The reason is what I just said. We do one good thing, but after that good thing, 3 bad things are created. We do a good thing, and after that good thing, 10 bad things are created. We don't see it all. And cause and effect is extremely strict. Cause and effect is not simple. Therefore, when I say, my dear Buddhist friends, do you believe in cause and effect? You say, yes, I strongly believe in cause and effect because Buddhism teaches that cause and effect is the core, so I believe in cause and effect. What is cause and effect? To be good is to meet good fortune. Who sows the wind reaps the whirlwind. And helping people gets merit, harming people gets punished. But in reality, it is not simple like that at all. You see, just the core of cause and effect alone, a person has to ponder it for decades to be able to understand it. It is not easy. Or the core of compassion. Said that to love people. Coming to the temple, we see couplets written like, this is the gate of compassion. That is the gate of wisdom. What is practicing Buddhism? To love all sentient beings. We all hear this until our ears are full, but in truth, when we look at our own hearts, we see we haven't even been able to love our neighbor, right? That person is disagreeable, we can't love them, let alone all sentient beings in the Dharma realm. Now, just talking about the 80 million people of Vietnam, have we loved them all yet? Not yet. In our family of 7, we haven't even loved all 7 people. We love 5 people, and the other 2 we kind of dislike in our hearts. Is that so? Don't even talk about loving 80 million Vietnamese people. Then never talk about loving the 6 billion people on this earth. And the idea of loving all sentient beings is a fantasy. And the Buddha taught it, we hear it like that, we understand it like that. We agree the doctrine is so beautiful like that, but to be able to do it, what does it take? It's not a matter of one day or one night. And to have the core of compassion exist in our hearts takes 5 years or more. I'm telling you, my dear Buddhist friends, 5 years or more. As for the venerable monks who have practiced their whole lives, that's another story. But for you, my dear Buddhist friends, you see that love is something beautiful, and you want people to live and love each other. What is more beautiful in life than this? People loving people, living to love each other. Or, no matter how much people love people, it is still not enough. When people hate people, even a tiny bit is too much. We see these sayings, they are so good, the doctrine is so good, and we want to love. We bring that love and speak of it to everyone so they can love each other too. But in truth, our hearts are still full of envy and hatred. 5 years or more. And in those 5 years, every day we must kneel before the Buddha altar, repent to the Buddha, pray for the Buddha's blessing to help open our hearts to love all sentient beings. If we are that sincere every single day, then after 5 years, a glimmer of compassion will begin to flicker, tentatively, and start to shine in our hearts. Just a little bit, just a tiny bit, not much yet. And it will take 50 years before we see our compassion pouring out of our hearts, flooding this heaven and earth, where we can look at anyone and love them. Walking on the street normally, looking at everyone, we can spread our love. 50 years. But before 50 years, maybe we have already departed. So compassion is not easy. Just one core is not easy to practice, not easy. Or meditation. We see the Buddha sitting cross-legged so beautifully, and many people sit in meditation very well. We also sit in meditation. But to enjoy the taste of meditation, tranquility, peace, liberation, how many years does it take? Someone says, "Venerable sir, I have also practiced meditation and I have been sitting for a year now and my mind is not tranquil. It's just full of wandering thoughts. I quit." Is that true? Are there people like that here? So many. Dear follower, you quit after only 1 year? Dear follower, you will never achieve it. I tell you, 40 years or more. Every day you must sit in meditation. Every day at the right time you sit in meditation without wavering, never skipping a session. Whenever you have free time, you sit. The mind is still agitated, still full of wandering thoughts, and you just keep sitting. For 40 years, the mind begins to break open, begins to change. You begin to experience the taste of meditation. At that point, when you sit cross-legged at that hour, you will see what peace and happiness are. Only then will you understand the sublime. 40 years. After only 1 or 2 months, 1 or 2 years, it's nothing yet. We understand this, so we are infinitely patient, we are endlessly diligent. That's why the term right effort comes before right mindfulness. We must persevere, nothing can shake us, even if our minds are agitated. Whenever I sit in meditation, Venerable Sir, my mind is agitated. I remember this and that. You say that, but you must keep sitting for me. At the right time, just sit. And only stop at the right time, don't quit early. Just fight with the wandering thoughts every hour, every minute. Why? Because we have been ignorant for countless eons. Now, to lose 40 years is still very cheap, it's nothing. You turn around, blink your eye, and 40 years have passed, right? When we were young, we felt a year passed very slowly. It took so long to get to the Lunar New Year to get lucky money. But as we get older, we see the years pass faster and faster. The years pass faster and faster. For a person who is 50, they blink their eye, turn around, and a year has passed. And for those who are 70, before they can even wash their face, rinse their mouth, and wash their feet, they see a year has gone by. Right? You venerable monks, elder monks, you see a year passes in the blink of an eye. Therefore, 40 years is very fast. So rest assured, be patient, and sit in meditation every day, and you will enjoy the taste of meditation. Yes. Therefore, each small, simple teaching like that, we have to practice, we have to experience it with great hardship to be able to grasp it. Don't think it's simple. Therefore, a master, in order to make us understand something simple, he has to talk in circles, around and around. So the person who talks in circles and takes a long time is, in truth, a compassionate person, a person who endures hardship. It's like those people who come to you to borrow money. First, they come to you and say, "What? How are you, sis? You look more beautiful now than before. Last year when I saw you, I didn't think you looked as good as this year." He's rambling, not yet talking about borrowing money. Then he continues, what else does he say? "Yesterday, I saw your daughter going somewhere. She's also looking very beautiful lately." He's not getting to the point. Then slowly, "I have a daughter who is the same age as your daughter. She's going to school this year." He talks around and around, and after a while, you find out he's short on money for something. Then slowly, he starts scratching his head and feet, and finally, after half an hour, he gets to, "Do you have any money? Can I borrow a few million?" In the end, he goes in a big circle to get to the final sentence. It would have saved time if he just came in and said that sentence right away. But he can't say it right away. If he says it right away, people won't understand. If you just go up to someone, knock on their door, they open it. "What is it? Can I borrow 3 million? You can't. You have to go in, sit down, drink some tea, give compliments, ask about things, then you get to it. It's the same. For us to be able to understand the doctrine of non-self, what it is, that there is no me. The venerable monks also start by talking in circles, around and around. The other day, my hair was still black. This year, my head has turned gray. Over there, the flower branch that was full of blossoms the other day. Today its petals have fallen and scattered in front of the temple courtyard. The person who loved me the other day has now left me forever." He talks around and around. What is he talking about? In the end, you find out, there is no me, alright? Don't you dare be attached to a me. In the end, it's just that sentence. But to be able to say the sentence that scolds you, there's no me, okay? No, me, don't be attached to a me to be able to say that sentence. He tells stories from north, south, east, and west, all around, and then finally you know there is no me. So we see, sometimes talking in circles is in truth to say something very simple. But to understand something simple, we also have to see so many complex things in this world. And the Buddha Dharma is like that. That's why we have the saying, one is all and all is one. It's like that. So when we hear something simple, we must understand that it hides something complex behind it. Or when we hear a vast, complex doctrine, we must understand that it has a very, very simple core. When you hear this, you must know there is that. When you hear that, you must know there is this. When you see an old person, you must know that person has passed through their youth, when they were young and beautiful. Or when you see a tender child with a fresh green head, joyful and frolicking, you must also understand immediately that this child will also have to pass through. Will pass through old age, pass through death. Just like that, when you hear the vast teachings of heaven and earth, you must know there is a simple core. Or when you hear a monk say something extremely simple, you must understand that if analyzed, there are countless complex things. So today, what have we been talking about? Practicing in daily life. Not yet. We want to talk about practicing in daily life, but what has the monk been talking about all this time? Circles and circles, heavenly soldiers and earthly generals, from all over. Haven't heard anything about practicing in daily life. This is to prepare to enter into practicing in daily life. Practicing in daily life, there are two situations. One is we enter a solitary retreat, close the door, and avoid worldly conditions. Or we still live normally in this life and still practice. In Buddhism, there is a practice method called entering retreat. The person asks for the teacher's permission, has someone outside to support them, stays in a room without contact, without talking to anyone. Then at mealtime, someone brings food in. And in there, they only apply themselves to their practice. Sometimes they do walking meditation, sometimes they prostrate to the Buddha, sometimes they sit in meditation, strictly, avoiding worldly conditions, not letting the mind be agitated by anything. They must focus only on the practice of concentrating the mind. That is called entering retreat. As for not entering retreat, it means we still live a normal life, still interact with people, still do our work, but we still have to apply ourselves to practice. We still have to apply ourselves to practice. And what we want to talk about today is this: how can we still live a normal life but still apply ourselves to practice? That's what we want to talk about with each other today. So, practicing in daily life, what is it for? We have two things to do. Two things to do to be called practicing in daily life. The first thing is, how do we direct our minds to always be oriented towards enlightenment and liberation? That is, we have a method of directing the mind to always be oriented towards enlightenment and liberation. What is that directing of the mind? It depends on the Dharma door we are practicing. Some people recite the Buddha's name, some contemplate the body's impermanence, some follow the breath, some follow the mind, some contemplate a koan, chant mantras, and so on. It depends on the person. But there is a way of directing the mind towards enlightenment and liberation. At all times, even when we are living a normal life, even when we are working, even when we are communicating secretly inside, at all times, we also direct our minds towards enlightenment and liberation. That is the first thing. The second thing that we must do to be called practicing in daily life is what? To handle all matters in accordance with the doctrine. That is, every matter that comes to us, we have to handle this matter, we have to do that matter. But we must ensure that whatever we do is in accordance with the doctrine. That is also called practicing in daily life. Remember those two tasks. Is it easy? Is it easy? Whoever says it's easy, either that person has already attained the way or that person, what is that person? Hasn't practiced at all yet. They think it's easy. Wait until you start practicing. Then you'll know it's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. Why? Because just the first thing we mentioned, having a secret intention to direct the mind towards enlightenment and liberation, just this alone is impossible to do. Even for a person who holds onto the Buddha's name, holding onto the Buddha's name while standing, walking, lying down, or sitting, and reciting the Buddha's name. Can you do it? If you can, I will call you master immediately. Why? Because our wandering thoughts are very strong, aren't they? We recite 5 words and then by the 6th word, it's gone. By the 6th repetition, wandering thoughts arise and cut in. They cut in for a while, and then the Buddha's name is lost. Only wandering thoughts remain. A while later, we suddenly remember and hurriedly recite again. We recite a few phrases. Then wandering thoughts arise, they run parallel with the Buddha's name. We are both reciting the Buddha's name and having a wandering thought. Then a while later, the wandering thought grows larger. Takes over, it pushes out, it kicks out the Buddha's name and it's gone. Right? This is true. Anyone who has practiced must have tasted this painful moment. The moment when we struggle painfully with wandering thoughts like that. Everyone is like that. And that's what makes us human. If anyone comes and says, "Venerable Sir, from the first day I concentrated my mind, it stuck immediately. I recite the Buddha's name without ever letting go." That person, we must put on an altar. On an altar, don't let that person stand on the ground, poor thing. That person must sit on an altar. As for anyone who still walks on the ground, well, sometimes the Buddha's name arises. Sometimes wandering thoughts cover it. It's just like that. So just the first task alone, meaning the secret intention to direct the mind towards liberation and enlightenment, we are already struggling to do. Or the person who practices meditation and contemplates the body as impermanent. At all times, standing, walking, lying down, sitting, they clearly see that their body is impermanent, that one day it will disintegrate into dust. Always like that. But as soon as they start working intently, it's lost, they forget about the body. Right? Forget immediately. In their spare moments, they still remember, but when they're busy, they forget immediately. Or the person who follows the mind, always keeping the mind empty and tranquil. Sometimes they follow it for a little while, then wandering thoughts arise and pull them away again. So the first thing, we already can't do it. But even if we can't do it, what must we do? We must still do it, still practice. We must not give up, because we have to fight with the karmic forces from our countless eons. We must not surrender. The fact that we want to practice but wandering thoughts keep arising and covering our minds, that is the karmic force from countless eons. And that is something we created. Now we must fight and we must win. No one can do it for us. No one can do it for us. No Buddha can step into our minds and make us tranquil. Never. That is why Buddhism is different from other religions. Other religions don't require practice, they only require prayer. Pray and hope that the higher power is moved. Then the higher power gives everything, the higher power gives everything. But in those religions, there is no practice of concentrating the mind, so they never have to suffer with the task of concentrating the mind. They ask for all sorts of things in the world, sometimes they get nothing, but as for believing, they must just believe. But here in Buddhism, it is clear that we have to fight with our wandering thoughts. And our wandering thoughts are our karmic forces. No one can help us. The Buddha loves us. He only teaches us and gives us some support. But we must fight with ourselves to become a saint. There is never a saint who has surrendered to himself. All saints are people who have conquered themselves. What does it mean to conquer oneself? It is to conquer one's mind, to conquer one's wandering thoughts. And usually we have lost many times. But though we lose, we must still fight. It's just like that. So the first task alone is not simple. So there are methods of practice, and gradually, when the conditions are right, we will talk about them later. Today we are just speaking generally that there are many methods to concentrate the mind. Or we recite the Buddha's name. When we recite the Buddha's name, we repeat it gently, softly in our mouths, not in our heads. Remember this. Reciting the Buddha's name like this, for example, we recite Namo Amida Buddha. Or some people recite Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Or some people recite Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. When we recite, we should recite with our mouths, and recite softly, whispering. Don't recite in your head. Because when we don't recite, when we close our mouths, the Buddha's name stops immediately. But if we recite in our heads, there will be the danger that when we want to stop, it doesn't stop, it keeps reciting in our heads, and then our brains get damaged. At that point, it becomes a neurological illness. There was a person like that. A Buddhist follower came and said, "Venerable Sir, I have been diligently reciting the Buddha's name, and now I have a mental illness. I have had to seek treatment outside, which was very difficult. I came back here and heard that you practice meditation, so please teach me how to cure this illness." Then I wondered, in my family, those who don't practice don't go mad. Why is it that I, who diligently practice and recite the Buddha's name, have gone mad? I said, "It's because you diligently practiced and recited the Buddha's name that you went mad. If you didn't practice, how could you go mad?" He said, "How can that be? They say practicing brings merit." I said, "You practiced incorrectly. You practiced incorrectly." He said, "How did I practice incorrectly?" I said, "The teachers taught you that while walking, standing, lying down, or sitting, you should always concentrate your mind on reciting the Buddha's name. That's the wrong way to recite. Now I ask you, now, if you don't want to recite, does that Buddha's name stop?" He said, "No, it just keeps reciting. That's broken. That's wrong. That is, you can't control it. If you are in control, then when you recite, the Buddha's name arises, and when you stop reciting, that phrase must stop. But now you don't want to recite, but that phrase still recites. Who is reciting then? It's a wandering thought. It's a form of wandering thought. Although the wandering thought is a recitation of the Buddha's name, and it sounds beautiful, it is still a wandering thought. It is still a sign that the brain is starting to get sick. Therefore, any Buddhist follower who recites the Buddha's name should recite with their mouth, with their lips, gently, gently. When you stop reciting, it stops completely. Only then are you in control. Besides, the Buddha's name is not something we can recite all the time. When we go into places that are defiled and impure, we absolutely must not recite the Buddha's name. If you go into a defiled, impure place and recite the Buddha's name, you create a karmic fault so heavy you could die. All the merit you had before will be poured into the river, into the sea, all of it. Therefore, you are only allowed to recite the Buddha's name in a very solemn and pure place. In a place that is not solemn and pure, you are only allowed to keep your mind empty, contemplating the body as impermanent. That's it. You are not allowed to recite the Buddha's name. I ask all Buddhist followers to remember this. For example, you diligently recite the Buddha's name for 10 days, but just for 5 minutes you go into the toilet and recite the Buddha's name. It's as if those 10 days are completely gone. Nothing is left. Remember that. Or we herd the buffalo in the style of observing and letting go of thoughts. A wandering thought arises, we know it, we let it go. That is also a way of following the mind daily, hourly in life. But for this, one's capacity must be a bit high to be able to practice it because there is no tool. Or we contemplate the body's impermanence, or we follow the breath, etc. That is, there are many Dharma doors to concentrate the mind. But the methods above are fundamental. Here we don't have time to analyze the pros and cons of each one. There is no time for that. And during the times when we are not busy with anything, we must sit cross-legged. Remember, practicing in daily life does not mean not sitting cross-legged. There must be a time to sit cross-legged in daily life. So we must set aside at least 2 times to sit cross-legged. Once before going to sleep and once after waking up. And if there is any free time during the day, sitting cross-legged more is very good. We must know how to sit cross-legged with the right technique, the right method. We cannot just sit haphazardly. Sitting cross-legged is very difficult and we must learn to sit very precisely. We cannot just sit randomly. Some places teach sitting very carelessly, legs crossed any which way. Hands placed any which way, sitting with a hunched back any way is fine. That is not allowed. If you're not going to sit cross-legged, then don't. But if you are going to sit cross-legged, you must sit very standardly, very precisely, very correctly according to the method. Therefore, we must go to someone who has experience sitting cross-legged properly and learn from them carefully. Don't just sit randomly. And during the day, we must sit twice. That is called practicing in daily life. You must sit twice. For how long each time? At least 30 minutes, then gradually increase. Gradually increase depending on your health and your concentration power. Yes, that is when sitting cross-legged. And the time when you are not sitting in meditation? Because we can't sit in meditation forever. Only those who have attained the way can sit for a long time. As for us who have not attained the way, we cannot sit for a long time. So there are times we must uncross our legs and do other things. At the time outside of sitting meditation, what do? We do walking meditation. We do walking meditation. And when we are doing walking meditation, what are we doing? What are we doing? We still direct our minds exactly as when we were sitting cross-legged. When we sit cross-legged, we follow our breath. So when we walk, we also follow our breath. When we sit cross-legged, we recite the Buddha's name. So when we do walking meditation, we also recite the Buddha's name. When we sit cross-legged, we see this body as impermanent. So when we do walking meditation, we still see the body as impermanent. That is, during walking meditation and during sitting cross-legged. The direction of the mind is exactly the same. That's how it is. And what about when you are tired? Can you keep walking? You can't. You have to sit. And you should sit on a canvas chair, leaning back to rest your back. Don't sit on a chair with a straight back, that will be tiring again. Because when we sit, we already straighten our backs. When we walk, we already straighten our backs. When we sit cross-legged, we already straighten our backs. When we do walking meditation, we already straighten our backs. And now, if we sit to rest and straighten our backs again, we won't have enough strength. Therefore, you must choose a chair, especially a canvas chair, lean back diagonally, and sit comfortably to regain your strength. And continue to apply the effort in the same way. Also see the body as impermanent, also recite the Buddha's name, also follow the breath, whatever, depending on your Dharma door. That is the way. Lying in a hammock is not good. Or lying straight on the bed, you can't practice. Usually you just fall asleep. Only when you sleep should you lie straight like that. When we lie straight on the bed, it is very, very difficult to concentrate the mind at that time. You cannot be diligent. So many practitioners are diligent. They refuse to lie down for this reason. And now, there are times when you have to do personal things like cooking, eating, cleaning, or personal hygiene like bathing. What should you do then? So, when you are working, what do? You both work and still have to concentrate your mind in the same way. When cooking rice, you cook but you still have to recite the Buddha's name. When wiping the table, you wipe but you still have to follow your breath. That is when we are talking about a person who is not in contact with others. When we sit cross-legged, when we do walking meditation, when we do manual labor, at all times we must concentrate our minds in the same way. And the person who can practice like that is called a truly diligent person in the sense of Buddhism. That is the person whom the celestial beings and Dharma protectors follow and support a great deal. Even though at that time we may not prostrate to the Buddha much, all the Buddhas and celestial beings are following and supporting us because we are so diligent. That is, every hour, every minute in our lives, we are always concentrating our minds. That person is always supported by all the Buddhas. Remember that. The case where we do not enter retreat, but we have to interact with many people, we have to take care of work. We have to buy and sell, we have to make a living, work at an office, at a company, have to calculate profits and losses, this item bought, that item sold out. What should we do then? Can we still keep our minds tranquil? Most of us cannot. Except for a few people who have attained a part of meditative concentration, only they can maintain it. A person who has attained a part of meditative concentration, then even when they are doing their specialized work, having to calculate with their minds, calculating ledgers, calculating numbers, their minds are still as tranquil as ever, still following the breath in and out as usual. My dear Buddhist friends, do you believe that? That exists. That exists. So don't be afraid that we have to struggle in life and cannot practice. We should only be afraid that we have not yet attained it. Once we have attained even a part of meditative concentration, then even if we have to take care of work, calculate numbers, interact with people, arrange this and that, direct this and that, our minds will still be tranquil. No problem. That is certain. Yes. But is that number large or small? The number of such people is large or small? Very small. And the rest, the majority of us, how are we? As soon as we have to interact with people, as soon as we have to arrange and calculate work, our minds can no longer be concentrated. So what do we practice then? What method do we practice then? Remember this method of practice, right action. During the times when a person who is not in retreat has to be outside, interacting with people, doing Dharma work, taking care of their livelihood, earning a living, taking care of their duties to their family, to their country, at that time our minds cannot be tranquil. except for the spare moments when we prostrate to the Buddha or sit in meditation. But outside of that time, when we are taking care of work, remember to practice only one method: right action. What is right action? Right action is handling every single task in a way that is extremely correct according to the right Dharma, according to the doctrine. That is called practice. Remember that. The practice at that time is no longer something sublime. The practice at that time is just doing things in a way that is extremely correct according to the doctrine, that's all. There's no longer a sublime spirituality. We just need to handle our work correctly according to the doctrine, and our merit begins to increase gradually. It's very good. It's very good. So every day we have to do many things, and for each thing, if we handle it correctly according to the doctrine, we accumulate 1 merit. If in one day we handle 5 things correctly, we accumulate 5 merits. And if we accumulate for many days, many months, many years like that, we accumulate a great deal of merit in our lives. And all that merit, it gathers in our minds, it transforms into meditative concentration for us later on. Therefore, between the right action where we handle all tasks and meditative concentration, there is a close connection. We just have to accept being busy, accept worrying, accept not being able to concentrate the mind from wandering thoughts yet, but we just need to handle every matter correctly according to the doctrine, and we will be able to concentrate our minds later in meditation. That is called practicing right action. And right action is sometimes we do something or sometimes we refuse to do something. Both are right action. For example, if something is wrong, we are determined not to do it. Absolutely. Even if someone hires us with money. Now, sis, you go over to that house over there. Okay? You burn down their pigsty for me. I'll give you 500,000. Do you do it? No. Even though at that time we are short of money, absolutely not. For 500,000, we won't do it. If you don't do it, that's too little. I'll give you 1 million. Even if you give me 10 million, I won't do it. When we refuse to do that, we have just practiced right action. We have just gained a certain amount of merit. Is that good? When we refuse to do something, we gain merit. We have merit. Or, for example, the venerable monks. A Buddhist follower says, "Now, I offer you 3 million, and that lady, every time she comes to the temple, please chase her out for me." Would the venerable monks agree? The venerable monks would say, "No, you only give 3 million and you expect me to chase a Buddhist follower away? I'll give you 4 million. Still no. No matter how much, because that action is wrong according to the right Dharma. Therefore, refusing to do a wrong action, we have just gained merit. That merit is saved up for us. Or we do something right, then we start to have merit. But why don't we do it? Why do we do it? When the action is evil, bad, we don't do it. When the action is right, it is wholesome, we do it. Is it easy? It's not that simple. In this world, it's very complicated. Why? Because the affairs of the world are not just two things. This is wholesome, that is evil. I see an evil act, I don't do it. I see a wholesome act, I do it. It's not that simple. But how is it? In this world, there are things where within the evil, there is a mix of good. Within the good, there is a mix of evil. In the good, there is a mix of bad. In the bad, there is a mix of good. In the right, there is a mix of wrong. In the wrong, there is a mix of right. It's all mixed in there. It's not simply purely wrong or purely right. It's not like that. Or now, let's go back to the case of someone giving the monk 3 million to chase that lady out of the temple. Venerable sir, that lady is too fierce. She comes to the temple and causes a commotion. A huge mess. Now I'll give you 3 million. You chase her out of the temple. This situation, it's different from before. Isn't it? Before, it was a normal Buddhist follower being chased out of the temple, which is completely wrong, so the venerable monks resolutely refused. But now there is a legitimate reason. This lady is too fierce. She comes to the temple and argues with this person, scolds that person, causes all sorts of trouble. Now there is a legitimate reason to chase her away. But is it right? Is it completely right? No, not completely right. Right? To just chase someone away, we refuse to teach that person anymore. We cut that person off from their connection with the Buddha. There is something wrong in that. Even though the fact that the lady is causing trouble is also wrong. She causes trouble. She disturbs others so they can't practice. She is also wrong. Chasing her out is also legitimate, right? It seems so. But to completely chase a lady away to cut her connection with the Buddha Dharma is also wrong. So we see many things in life are not simple. They cannot be resolved in a one-dimensional way. It's not simple at all. Because it's not simple, it's called practice. If it were easy to handle, everyone would have become a Buddha already. It's difficult to become a Buddha. It's precisely at the point where we practice right action, we navigate between the wrong and the right to do the most correct thing. So it's not just, this is wrong, that is right. Within that, there is the most right in the navigation between the wrong and the right. Life is complex like that. It's not as simple as we think. And our wisdom is precisely at that point. Our wisdom in living in this world, our practice of right action, practicing in daily life, is that amidst this multifaceted life, interwoven with good and evil, right and wrong, we are able to resolve things in the most reasonable, most correct way, most in line with both sentiment and reason. That is called accumulating merit. We are able to practice in daily life. We perfect right action. So what would the venerable monks do in the case of that disruptive lady? What to do? In this sermon, we will not answer because it is too difficult. So if anyone falls into that situation, try your best to handle it. Try your best to handle it. And it's not just that one story. It's not just that one story. There are many more. For example, like this, a person we know comes to our house to ask for money. That person is also a relative of some kind, we don't know. They come and say, "Right now I'm in a tight spot with money. I see you're quite well off. Can you give me 5 million to help with my expenses?" They know we are good people, and they have always seen us go to the temple, be vegetarian, recite the Buddha's name, practice and do good deeds, and we are also quite well off. So they think, if we can help outsiders, how much more so for people in our own family, our own relatives? We must help. They come asking for 5 million. Do you give it? Do you give it? It's not simple. Not simple at all. Anyone who raises their hand and says, "Give it immediately," is either a billionaire, in the top 10 of the city, or they have just escaped from the local mental asylum. No one just gives 5 million immediately like that. No one. Because first, we are not a billionaire in the top 10 of the city, so we don't just have 5 million ready to give away immediately. If everyone who asks for money we give 5 million immediately, in 3 days we would be finished. People would flock to our house to ask for money. We'd be finished, right? We don't have it. We don't have that much money. We have to consider, don't we? What do we consider? We consider whether the person asking us is really in dire straits or not. Is it absolutely necessary and they have no other way out? That's the first consideration. The second consideration is how much money we have in our house, right? What do we need that money for? What does our family, our parents need it for? What do our children need it for? And is it urgent or not? After spending it, is there any left over to help this person or not? That is, as soon as someone asks us for 5 million, our minds calculate a whole series of things before deciding whether to give or not. Sometimes, after calculating back and forth, we see that this person's situation is not very dire. This person sees that we are generous and is just asking for fun, for spending money. If we don't give, it's fine. So we cannot give for an unjustified reason. Or the other person has a legitimate reason, but at that time our family circumstances cannot be so generous. At that time our parents are sick and need that amount of money for something. Our child has to register for school. If they don't register, they lose their spot in the class, right? Or etc. Many things we also cannot give. We have to refuse. And not giving is in accordance with the right Dharma. Our reason is legitimate in accordance with the right Dharma. No one can blame us. But there are times when we cannot refuse completely. So what should we do? Give a small part. For example, at that time we calculate the budget in our family. We can use it for this and that. And there might be a little left over to help this person in part, because this person's reason is also legitimate. Then we choose our words carefully and say, "I tell you, sis, seeing your situation, I also feel compassion. But right now I am also not comfortable, and there are many things to do at home. So please allow me to contribute a part, maybe 1/5 or 2/5 of the amount you requested. Please accept it and be happy. That is, we navigate between the right and the wrong to act. In life, it's not always one or the other, yes or no. Right or wrong, so clear-cut. But it is something that navigates. The line between right and wrong is very fragile, and it requires us to be very wise. Have you, my Buddhist friends, encountered many situations like this? Have you? You have, right? You've encountered many difficult situations like that. Now, we are starting to become well off, we have accumulated money, and we see that our house is old. We want to build a new house to be on par with our siblings and neighbors. Our neighbors have all built new houses, and we are still living in an old house. It's a bit strange. Now we want to demolish the house and rebuild it. Now, the act of having money, our house is old, we want to demolish it and rebuild it. Does the law punish us for that? Does it? Does it? No. It's a completely personal desire. We haven't stolen from anyone. The money is ours, accumulated. According to the law, there is absolutely nothing to worry about. According to the doctrine, be careful. Be careful of what? Be careful of what? Be careful that the house is still livable, but we demolish it. It becomes a karmic fault, the fault of wastefulness. And that fault, in the next life, we will have to pay the consequences. Even though we haven't touched anyone, we haven't demolished anyone's house. But in the next life, we will have to spend 3 years living in a hut in the forest, without a house to live in, just because in a previous life we demolished a perfectly good house to build a more luxurious one. But because of that, in the next life we have to live in a hut in the forest for 3 years with no house to live in because we were wasteful. It's not simple at all. So when we see cause and effect like that, we start to be afraid. It's not that if we have money we can just build a house, demolish a house, and build another. No, there is still doctrine in that. We see that living in this world, what is called practicing right action, handling every matter precisely, is truly, truly difficult. So many times in that situation we wish that in the future, scientists would invent a machine that, how? For example, on that piece of land, there is an old house that is still good, but we want to build a big villa. And we don't want to demolish this house. Then they will have a machine to lift the house and move it to another place for a poor person. Over there, they need a charity house, but they don't have money to build it. A charity house costs 7 million, 10 million dong, but they don't have money to build it. Our house is worth hundreds of millions. We lift it and give them the whole 100 million house. The land is empty, we can build a villa on it. Then there is no karmic fault at all. Merit is piled on top of merit. Very good. But it's a pity that no scientist has yet invented a machine that can lift our whole house and give it to someone else. If one day scientists invent a machine that can lift houses and give them to people, this world will be saved from a lot of karmic fault. But as for demolishing a house to build a new one, even though we are enjoying our own merit, we are still saving up a karmic fault for the next life. Not simple. So living in this world is navigating between the wrong and the right while living and working. It is very, very hard. And being hard is what practice is. Doing things correctly is what practice is. For example, now the venerable monks organize a practice community for Buddhist followers. They have to elect a group leader, a deputy, a secretary, a treasurer. Considering and choosing the right person is also extremely difficult. Because the person who is the group leader, the deputy, what level of virtue must they have? What level of ability? What level of financial capacity? How can they have prestige so that they don't bother others but can support and help their Dharma brothers and sisters to advance in their practice and so on? So choosing that person, and if we choose correctly, we also have merit. But if we choose wrongly, we also lose merit. Those things are called practicing right action in daily life. It means that for every matter that comes to us, we handle it extremely reasonably, correctly according to the right Dharma, then we accumulate merit. But if we do it wrong, we get a karmic fault that stays there. Or now a guest comes to visit us. We have to receive that person. But the level of care with which we receive that person, what level is correct? That also gives us merit. It's not easy, not easy. For example, that person comes, and we have to receive them with a level of coolness, just right, and sternness. That gives us merit. But if we meet that person and we are overly attentive, overly effusive, we create negative karma, right then and there. Or that person is someone we should be attentive and effusive to, but our face is as cold as money, we create negative karma, right then and there. Create negative karma, right then and there. In that life, where do we go in the next life? Wherever we go, people will chase us away and reject us, because we did not respect the person worthy of respect. We did not love the person worthy of compassion. In the next life, we will face the consequences immediately. As for the person with whom we must be strict so that they know their faults and are afraid, but we are overly attentive and effusive, causing their ego to develop and they continue to cause trouble, we also create negative karma. So when we receive a person, at what level of attentiveness is it correct? That is also wisdom. And that is also practice. Practicing in daily life is at that point. Not everyone is the same. So many times we see that the venerable monks are compassionate, the venerable monks have practiced. So towards sentient beings, the venerable monks see them as equal. The venerable monks love everyone. But it's not that the venerable monks treat everyone the same. No, some people come, and the venerable monks are very attentive because this person has a mind for the path and needs to be guided, needs to develop. But some people come and the venerable monks are very stern, not giving them the opportunity for their ego to develop. This person has some problem in their mind. Only the venerable monks know. That is also called practice. Practicing right action. Or when we are strict, we scold someone, or when we praise someone correctly, we also have merit. But if we scold them wrongly, we create negative karma. We praise them wrongly, we create negative karma too. Not easy. It's not that we just meet anyone and smile as bright as a flower, praise everyone, and we have merit. No, if it's wrong, we also create negative karma. So living in this world is very, very difficult. Practicing right action is very difficult. Practicing in daily life is not easy. It requires us to always be tranquil, to calm our hearts, to let go of our minds, to be tranquil, not to be dominated by personal feelings. Only then can we see the issue clearly, karmic fault and merit, good and evil, right and wrong, and handle it reasonably. That's how it is. Practicing in daily life, it turns out, is also very, very difficult, not easy. So for countless matters like that, does anyone teach us beforehand? Is there any scripture that opens up and says, on the 5th of July, a person of a certain age will come to our house. We must receive them and treat them in this way to be correct. Is there any book that teaches us that in advance? Is there? No, it's up to us. At that moment, when we encounter that situation, we have to handle it ourselves. How to do it correctly, how to have merit, that's it. No one teaches us. And to have the wisdom at that moment to handle the work correctly, what must we do? Where does that wisdom come from? It comes from many days and months of prostrating to the Buddha, sitting in meditation, chanting sutras, scraping together small moments of merit, accumulating a lot of that merit. Then our wisdom starts to brighten up gradually, and every matter that comes to us, countless matters, infinitely complex, diverse, and troublesome, we see them precisely. What is what? There are things we must be silent about. There are things we must speak of like thunder. There are things we must intervene in. There are things we must ignore. But whatever we do is all correct. Doing it this way is reasonable. Ignoring it is reasonable. Intervening in this way is reasonable, and so on. That wisdom is precisely thanks to many days and months. Every day we prostrate to the Buddha, pray for the Buddha's blessing. We respect the Buddha limitlessly. We spread our love to sentient beings. We concentrate our minds in meditation. Thanks to that, we have wisdom. So we see that right action and the practice of meditation support each other. If we are good at practicing meditation, if we are good at prostrating to the Buddha, then when we do work in daily life, we do it accurately. And during the times we live in daily life and handle work accurately, then when we go to sit in meditation, we will sit well. Those two things support each other back and forth. That's how it is. So if we see that we are bad at sitting in meditation, we should do many good things, handle work accurately, And if we see that we often fail at work, we should be diligent in sitting in meditation, because those two things support each other back and forth. Now, in the case of monastics, the Sangha, those who have left the household life, living in a practice environment, a pure environment of the path, they open their eyes and see the Buddha. Over here is the altar for the Arhats, over there is the altar for the Bodhisattvas, the main hall is for the Buddha. Around us are people who practice. Our environment is an environment of the path. Only when you look outside the temple gate do you start to see the bustling world. But inside the temple, it's an environment of the path, so whatever you do, it's easy to gain merit. Every single action of ours is sowing a seed of liberation day by day to move forward to develop the career of practicing for enlightenment. For a practitioner like that, it's easy to have merit. Just a slight movement, you have merit. Just a slight movement, you have merit. Because whatever you do is Dharma work. That is why when we bring rice, bring money to offer to the temple, we have merit. It's because the venerable monks with just a slight movement, they have merit. The person who has left the household life, living inside, meaning, walking past the Buddha altar, bowing their head, the venerable monks also have merit. Seeing the main hall is dirty, sweeping it also have merit. Seeing Buddhist followers coming to chant sutras, Buddhist followers coming to prostrate to the Buddha, ringing the bell for the Buddhist followers, reminding the Buddhist followers of a few things, the venerable monks also have merit. So for a person who has left the household life in a temple, whatever they do, it's easy to have merit. Therefore, for that person, what is called practicing in daily life is very favorable, isn't it? Favorable because our environment is already a practice environment. An environment full of practice, brimming with practice. So whatever we do is also practice. It's easy for us to have merit. And we, the Buddhist followers, when we come and make offerings to such a practitioner, we also enjoy the shared merit. But who is to be blamed? To be blamed is the person who has left the household life, living in such a teeming environment of the path. But if in their heart, in their mind, there are still worldly defilements, competitiveness, hatred, envy, desire, it is a very great karmic fault. A very great karmic fault, because we have betrayed our karmic fortune. We have the karmic fortune to live in an environment of the path. But we let our minds wander astray, then we create a very heavy karmic fault. Very heavy. A person in the world, their mind wanders astray. It's true that it's just karmic fault piled on top of karmic fault, but it's not too heavy, not too blameworthy, because their surrounding circumstances are all worldly. The world is defiled. It's a trap, it's about competitiveness, it's about hatred. They have to struggle in it. And if they can escape from it, they have extremely great merit. That person is not to be blamed if they happen to be defiled, not to be blamed, because their environment is full of defilement and worldliness and competitiveness and hatred. And if they have more of it, it's like a black sheet of paper and you add another drop of ink, it's the same, no problem. But a white sheet of paper belonging to a venerable monk, you put a drop of ink on it, there's a problem immediately. You look at it and it's very clear. And it's very blameworthy. Therefore, people never blame a black sheet of paper for being dirty, but they blame a white sheet of paper for being stained, right? So what is called practicing in daily life? Herein lies a paradox. The paradox is that people will criticize a white sheet of paper stained by a drop of black ink, and they will praise a black sheet of paper that has managed to be bleached a little bit white, showing just a tiny bit of whiteness while the rest is all black. But they will praise, wow, how amazing, how excellent, living amidst such a dark, filthy world. Yet you can practice. How wonderful. So much praise, right? But as for the monk, how does he practice? He practices all day, he is tranquil. But one day he happens to get angry. Oh my God! Look at that fiery monk. How fierce. So the venerable monks rarely get praised, because we are already white. The moment we make a move, we get criticized. As for Buddhist followers, if you get a little bit white, you get a lot of praise. Is that unfair? It's not unfair at all. That's just how it is, you have to endure it. If you've chosen to be a monk, you have to endure it. You have to endure everyone looking at you, examining you, scrutinizing you for all sorts of things. We must keep our sheet of paper as white as a flower, as white as snow. It's mandatory. As for the Buddhist followers, no one scrutinizes you because you're already pitch black. But you cannot let yourself stay black forever. We must make ourselves white again, gradually, to escape from this world full of defilement, competitiveness, hatred, and sin. Because we cannot walk forever in the cycle of birth and death. We must rise up, must overcome, must become a truly liberated person. So that's why I talk about the white paper, the black paper, the praise, the criticism. So here, the venerable monks, since we have chosen to be practitioners, we must keep ourselves white. It's mandatory. And if we are white for our whole lives, the Buddhas will praise us and bring us to the holy realms. As for you, my dear Buddhist friends, you should admit you are black, right? Or do you say you are white? Black? Ha? Alright, black. You admit you are black. But in truth, many people are also quite white in their hearts. It's not that they're not. Many Buddhist followers, but their hearts are very white. But anyway, let's be humble and say, we Buddhist followers, we are black. But in that blackness, we erase. We do wholesome, meritorious deeds. At the appointed hour, we still prostrate to the Buddha, chant sutras, sit in meditation, do meritorious deeds. And we handle every matter precisely, extremely reasonably. That is, although we say it's a black sheet of paper, in truth, if you look closely, we have been getting whiter day by day, and our merit is very great. And we are praised to the skies by the celestial beings above. How so? There is a good man, a faithful woman, living in such a defiled world, yet has remained firm in their practice, advancing day by day, able to walk on the Buddha's path of enlightenment and liberation. There is a very great merit for Buddhist followers. That is, although we bear the body of a lay follower, we still connect with the venerable monks in the role of propagating the Dharma and helping sentient beings. The work of spreading the teachings, the main role belongs to the venerable monks. But to say it's the main role, in the end, the venerable monks turn out to be supplementary. Why supplementary? Because the venerable monks have to stay at the temple. They don't get to travel to many places. It is precisely us, the Buddhist followers, who are the ones who can roll up our sleeves and get into the many corners of life. So we are the ones who can lend a hand to the venerable monks to bring the Buddha Dharma to everyone, to those who still don't know. We are lucky we know the Buddha Dharma. We are lucky. We are bleaching our black paper white. So we have the duty to bring that Buddha Dharma, bring that light to those who do not yet know. And for example, in the environment of this city, if there is still a neighborhood that doesn't know the Buddha Dharma, if there is still a house that doesn't know the Buddha Dharma, then each of us must be a soldier bringing the Buddha Dharma to that person. So you, my dear Buddhist followers, are the same. Your next door neighbor, if they don't know the Buddha Dharma, it's your fault. Your neighborhood, if people don't know the Buddha Dharma, it's your fault. We must make it so that in this city, not a single house is left that doesn't know the Buddha Dharma. Is there still a place that doesn't know the Buddha Dharma? In the church with the priest. But be careful, that priest might have studied the Buddha Dharma more than we have. So we have the right to try and enlighten everyone. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we should participate in organizing a practice community with a high degree of self-management, to remind each other and advance in our practice. Because the venerable patriarchs have said, eating rice requires soup, practicing requires friends. For example, now we know how to take refuge. We go to the temple and then we just go home and practice on our own for a long time before returning to the temple. This is still not good enough. We must go and ask for the venerable monk's permission to establish a practice community. We say, we live in a certain neighborhood in the city. A group of us would like to establish a practice community of 300 to 400 Buddhist brothers and sisters. We would like to register that on Saturday afternoons, we will come here to meet, practice together, sit in meditation together, discuss the doctrine together, and also discuss doing charity work together. We ask for your verification and guidance. Then you also elect a group leader, a deputy, and you manage yourselves. The ability to self-manage is very high when, among the Dharma brothers and sisters, you remind each other to be diligent in your practice. Don't let anyone skip the daily practice sessions at home. Don't let anyone skip the group practice days at the temple. If anyone has difficulties, we go and help each other. If anyone has success, we share it with each other. If there are wholesome deeds to be done, we invite each other to do them. Those are the practice communities with a very high degree of self-management under the verification, monitoring, and guidance of the venerable monks. That is the second thing. The merit is very great. Let me repeat, the first thing is very great to assist the venerable monks in spreading the Buddha Dharma into every nook and cranny of life, to every person in this life. That is the first thing. The second thing is to participate in organizing collective practice communities with a high degree of self-management like that. No one should stand alone and practice alone. Absolutely not. No matter how good you are, you should still participate in a practice community to contribute your skills to the collective. And if you are not good, you can learn the good things from the collective, from your Dharma brothers and sisters. The third thing, which is also very meritorious, is this. We have a very high consciousness in the work of protecting the Dharma and protecting the homeland. A very high consciousness in the work of protecting the Dharma and protecting the homeland. You ask, oh, the homeland and the Dharma? Is there anything that needs protecting? Is there? You say, so far, we've seen it's very peaceful. What is there to protect? In truth, we see it as peaceful. We don't know that the peace we are enjoying now, that we are sitting here in such a tranquil setting to listen to the Dharma, we don't know that on some silent border, there are soldiers who are still shedding blood to fight against evil people every day. We don't know that there are police officers, security officers, who are silently following criminals, rolling around under bridges, in alleys and markets to hunt down criminals. Thanks to them, we are sitting here peacefully practicing like this. So behind the peace, the tranquility of society, what is there? It is the labor, the bones and blood of countless soldiers who are still silently sacrificing on many fronts. We just don't know it. But the battle is still happening. Evil people are still destroying the country. Evil people are still destroying the Dharma. It's not over. It's not peaceful. So we must not be naive about this. For a long time, we have been very naive, thinking we don't need to protect the Dharma because there are laws, life is peaceful, no one is opposing it. But we don't know that the Dharma is being infiltrated and sabotaged by evil people. The homeland is still being infiltrated and sabotaged by evil people. Therefore, the third merit of a Buddhist follower is to have a very high consciousness in the work of protecting the Dharma and protecting the homeland. In the past, the patriarchs saw this. That's why they required every temple to have a statue of a Ho-Fap, a Dharma protector, wearing armor, with a majestic, beautiful face, and holding a sharp sword. The sword is a lethal weapon. If a Dharma protector statue were sculpted today, what should it be holding? A gun. What kind of gun? We don't know. An AK or AK-54 or AB-40, we don't know. But if it were today, the Dharma protector would have to hold a gun. What did the patriarchs of the past mean by that? What did they want to remind us of? They wanted to remind us that alongside practice, there must be brave, skilled people who are willing to throw themselves into the fight, ready to fight to protect the Dharma, protect the homeland. That is the meaning of the Dharma protector statue. Every time we see a Dharma protector statue and prostrate, we should not think that there is some Ho-Fap with a sword guarding us. No. When we prostrate to the Dharma protector statue, we must receive the reminder of the patriarchs of the past. We must be a brave, courageous person, ready to fight. When we go to prostrate before the Buddha, what teaching do we receive? I will practice to attain liberation. When we prostrate before the Dharma protector statue, what teaching do we receive? I will be a warrior who protects the Dharma and protects the homeland. That is, we prostrate to each deity and we receive a teaching from that deity. We have a few mental intentions to maintain our minds throughout the day. To say, practicing in daily life, we have a few mental intentions like this. A few mental intentions about the qualities of a Buddhist follower. A few mental intentions about the ethics of a disciple of the Buddha. As a disciple of the Buddha, we need a few mental intentions like this throughout the day to remind ourselves. A heart of absolute respect for the Buddha. We generate the intention of compassion, loving sentient beings. We generate the intention of humility, always seeing ourselves as still lacking, still poor. We always generate the intention of patience, of not being angry. We always generate the intention of courage. We always generate the intention to remind ourselves to always know how to accept fault for ourselves and not blame others. Those are the mental intentions that belong to fundamental ethics to protect our minds. Our minds need a protective fence so that they don't get destroyed, don't get agitated, don't get torn apart. And the ideas to protect our minds consist of these ideas. Let me repeat. First, absolute respect for the Buddha. Second is what? Seeing people. We must give rise to a compassionate mind. When we do something good, what must we think of? The intention of humility. When there is a conflict, what intention do we generate? Patience. When we encounter difficult, dangerous things, what must we remind ourselves? We must be courageous. When a troublesome thing happens, what must we know to do? We must know how to accept fault for ourselves. Those are the necessary mental intentions to protect our minds from being damaged, broken, torn, or ripped. Those are the mental intentions that we need to have. Then there are qualities that we must generate the intention for, so that we can contribute to building the Buddha Dharma. What is that? It is the virtue of loyalty. Loyalty means never betraying, never going against. Always following, always serving. Who are we loyal to? We are loyal to the Dharma, right? Loyal to the Dharma means being loyal to the Buddha, which is being loyal to the Dharma. Who else are we loyal to? Right? Loyal to our root teacher. That is, the teacher who gave birth to us into a new life, a life full of the taste of the path. The teacher who gave us a Dharma name, who gave us a new life. We must be loyal to our root teacher, right? Who else are we loyal to? Loyal to our homeland, right? We were born, we grew up, our homeland nurtured us, gave us everything. It gave us the sweet fruit from our childhood trees. It gave us clear, cool rivers. It gave us boundless green rice fields. It gave us all this loving, tender affection. It gave us a heroic history that preserved our country and became the dignity of our people. So we must be loyal to our homeland. Who else are we loyal to? Who else are we loyal to? In the past, people often said to be loyal to their leader. In the past, we called it loyal to the king. Now that concept is no longer mentioned, but it is still a very good virtue. There are things that we think are old, but in truth, they are still very precious. Still very precious. And when we betray that, when we criticize that as being old, our society shatters. Our souls shatter. For example, the ancients talked about loyalty to the king and love for the country. Loyal to the king and loving the country. That doctrine is never superfluous. Today we hear it mentioned less, but in truth, that doctrine is always noble and beautiful, and we must abide by it. That's just a little bit called a little bit of ancient doctrine. As in Buddhism, we are disciples of the Buddha, we must be loyal to our Dharma. Even if in the future someone gives us millions or billions or tempts us with anything, we would rather die, rather be poor, than ever betray our Dharma. Today, talking to each other about practicing in daily life, let me repeat a few points. First, the teachings are vast, but there are a few cores. A few small cores. But to understand these few cores, it takes a whole lifetime of practice. Second, what is practicing in daily life? It is doing two things. First is to direct the mind according to a practice method to move towards enlightenment and liberation. And second is to practice right action, which is to handle all matters in a way that is extremely correct according to the right Dharma. Even though that work is very difficult, knowing right and wrong, good and evil, we must have the wisdom to know. And we also have many mental intentions to protect our minds, always reminding our minds with a number of intentions. The intention of respecting the Buddha, the intention of compassion, patience, humility, courage, yielding, accepting fault for oneself. And especially, a quality for us to protect our homeland and our Dharma is our loyalty and a very high consciousness in protecting the right Dharma.